Youth Diplomacy. This is in conjunction with Hari Sumpah Pemuda or Youth October 28. And for your information that this program
in the early time of the Republic of Indonesia, the youth also played their roles in defending Indonesia in the international forum. Diplomacy is not only owned and done by government. Individuals and various elements of society, especially the youth, become important actors in doing many things for the country and produce outstanding results which are even greater than what has been done by the government's elite. Because non-governmental actors have strong influences, they can penetrate truly rooted to the bottom and sprouted to the top. In Indonesia, the interest of young people on diplomacy is increasingly apparent. There are many young Indonesians who participate in the World Forum and contribute their ideas for the world advancement. Moreover, currently there are more than 80,000 Indonesian students who attend school outside the country and have the opportunity and potential to become the ambassadors of Indonesia's diplomacy. Facing the era of Sustainable Development Goals and the ASEAN Economic Community, the role of Indonesia youth in supporting the country's diplomacy is becoming increasingly important. This role, of course, needs support not only from the state, but also from all interested parties to create more quality diplomacy in favor of strengthening cooperation between Indonesia and other countries. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in a moment we are going to hold diplomatic forum at the auditorium of Yusuf Ronodipuro, LPP RRI, and the program will last until 13 local time and will be live broadcast through Program 1 RRI Jakarta, 91.2 FM, and through live streaming www.voi.co.id. And the speakers who will attend the diplomatic forum is here, and we would like to thank to all the speakers who have been willing to attend this program. The invited guests, as well as program managers, the production team, and those who have made this program possible. Thank you very much and enjoy the diplomatic forum.
Thank you very much for Ibu Niken Widyastuti as the President Director of Radio Republik Indonesia for the remarks. And before we start the diplomatic forum, I would like to inform you as well that Ibu Niken just celebrated her birthday on October 30. So happy birthday, and to say happy birthday to Ibu Niken, can you all help me to sing happy birthday to her on the count of 3? Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Yay, once again. Selamat ulang tahun, Ibu Niken. Happy birthday to you. May you always be blessed and get happiness for good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have to wait any longer then to begin our diplomatic forum carrying the theme role of the youth diplomacy. So we kindly invite the hosts of today, Ana Trijaya Kasih and Rahmana. Let's give applause for them. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we would like to kindly invite our today's speakers for Diplomatic Forum for November 2nd, 2015, Ambassador of Hungary to Indonesia, Her Excellency Judith Nemetpach. And the second speaker of the day, Rudolf Wirawan, Vice President, Global Indonesian Diaspora Network. And last but not least, we kindly invite Zefa Aulia Sudana, Outreach and Media Relations Manager from Indonesian Youth Diplomacy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'd like to remind you all that this program is also broadcast both by Voice of Indonesia at voi.co.id and also RRI Pro 1 Jakarta at 91.2 FM and also streaming rrijakarta.com channel Pro 1 as well as RRI Play mobile application. And don't forget that this is also live broadcasted on our YouTube channel, VOI Indonesia. And before that, I also invite your participation to join our dialogue by asking questions directly to our sources later. And for the sake of convenience, we need to ask you to put your cell phones into silent mode, please. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to join Pro 1 RRI Jakarta for Metropolitan International Community Service.
RRI
91,2 FM Pro 1 RRI Jakarta.
Karena inspirasi.
Metropolitan International Community Service, brought to you by Radio Republic of Indonesia's World Service, Voice of Indonesia, and 91.2 FM Pro 1 RRI Jakarta, Channel of Inspiration.
Hello, listener, wherever you are. Welcome to Metropolitan International Community Service, or MICS, live from RRI Pro 1 Studio in Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia. I'm Dee. In the next 60 minutes, we'll accompany you with the news, current affairs, arts and culture, and certainly songs. And this program is brought to you by RRI World Service Voice of Indonesia and Pro 1 RRI Jakarta Channel of Inspiration. Listener, you can tune in this program on frequencies of 91.2 FM or through audio streaming at www.rrijakarta.com, www.rrijakarta.com. Listener, now we are going to join our special event, Diplomatic Forum, live from Yusuf Rono Dipuro Auditorium.
RRI World Service Voice of Indonesia and Pro 1 RRI Jakarta present Diplomatic Forum, a talk show analyzing strategic issues and global perspective.
Okay, welcome to Diplomatic Forum, and as my friend Rahma told you just now, I'm Anna, and today I'm accompanied by Rahmana to bring together this talk show. So listeners, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually the third Diplomatic Forum and that we are having this year. So today, in connection with the Indonesian Youth Pledge Day, as you know, it's on October the 28th, we are going to talk about the role of youth in diplomacy. So there are a lot of things to discuss on diplomacy, how it plays its role to strengthen cooperation among countries, how it affects young people to have interest in diplomacy, and how young people can possess diplomacy skill to not only develop their skill or themselves, but also to support Indonesian diplomacy in global communities. Well, to know about that, to get the answer of all those questions, we already have our speakers, our distinguished speakers today, and Rahmana are going to introduce them.
Well, listeners, nice to be with you again. Here our diplomacy forum with the theme, the role of young people in diplomacy. Well, before we begin, I would like to introduce our special guest today. First of all, I would like to say Ambassador of Hungary to Indonesia, Her Excellency Judith Namitwa. Nice to see you.
Very nice to be here. Thank you so much.
And then the second one is Mr. Rudolf Wirawan, Vice President, Global Indonesian Diaspora Network. How are you today, sir?
Good. Thank you for inviting me here.
Right. Well, and the last one, but not least, Miss Sefa. Is it Miss?
Yes, Miss.
Okay, yeah. Miss Sefa Aulia Sudana, the Outreach and Media Relations Manager, Indonesian Youth Diplomacy.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Well, before we begin, I would like to say that, this forum is open for the audience to participate next. Let's begin.
Okay, as we see here that today, this diplomatic forum today is in connection with Youth Pledge Day, and as we can see here, our guests today are all young people. Of course, even the ambassador is quite surprising, ma'am, that I see that you're so young to be an ambassador. And frankly speaking, you are the youngest ambassador that I have in this program. And of course, Miss Zela, you are young, you look so young, of course, we can see that. However, Bapak Rudolf here, even though white hair, I think he also looks so young.
I'm very young, just 65.
Okay, doesn't matter. Age is just number.
Correct, yes.
Okay, for the first question is for Miss Zeva. So Zeva, I can call you just Zeva, I suppose, because you're so young. So actually, what is Indonesian youth diplomacy?
Indonesian Youth Diplomacy is a youth organization. We were established in 2010. So at the time, we had delegates from Indonesia going to the G20 Youth Summit and Vancouver in Canada. And afterwards, they decided to make an organization that can fulfill youth aspiration in Indonesia. And also, those who wants to apply for the next youth summits, we would be obliged to organize for them. And we hold many programs as well in regards to youth in Indonesia, and we cooperate with many stakeholders. And we hope that in the years to come, we will still be around and empower Indonesian youth in general.
Yes, maybe the biggest question is why diplomacy? Why do you have this youth diplomacy, and what kind of diplomacy it is?
We believe that public diplomacy is very important, and youth have to have a medium where they could voice out their opinions because they are the leaders of the future. And public diplomacy is a great way to introduce ideas, aspirations to the wider public. And through youth diplomacy and public diplomacy in general, it is very good to voice our opinions in any issues that are really hot around the world.
So it's a kind of forum, or do you have membership or something like that?
It's an organization. We do have membership. At the moment, we have organizing committees who consist of those who were previously participating in the youth summits that organize all our activities. But since the last 2 years, we have been engaging more with Indonesian youth. So we hold Meet the Diplomats program, workshops, and also we go to universities and we engage with Indonesian youth in general and take their hand and get them involved also in the diplomacy process. So it's not only just the alumni of the Y20 summits.
So how many members up to the moment?
Well, for the organizing committee, I think we are approximately around 40-ish people.
Okay.
But for the Indonesian youth in general, we always encourage lots of people to attend our events. And it can be to the hundreds or so even like 30, 40, depending on the event that we hold.
Well, I would like to know more about diplomacy, but we have our other guests today. Rahmana, I think it's your turn to ask questions.
I would like to direct to Her Excellency Ambassador. How does the diplomacy play an important role in your country? And to share, let's say, the diplomacy that Indonesia has been conducting so far. So what has your country done to improve the diplomacy for your country?
I guess Indonesia and Hungary has very good diplomatic ties. We already opened our embassy here 60 years ago, so now we are celebrating this anniversary this year. And I guess to enhance diplomatic relationship is always important. And for this, sometimes you really need the power of the young people. And because why I think it's important to include young people in diplomacy is because sometimes they have a fresher mindset, an open mind, another way of coming close to some subjects. Sometimes it's a little bit more dynamic, more intensive. Right now in Hungary we have a very, very young foreign minister here. He's one of the youngest in Europe. He's only 37-year-old. And of course, I'm as an example as one of the youngest ambassadors from Hungary right now. And also, as you mentioned already at the beginning, definitely really very young. But we also have state secretaries and minister of states who are not even 30 years old. And it shows results that sometimes an open mindset and, a different approach, more dynamic approach can be of a great use. And I hope that also in our relations now between Hungary and Indonesia, this will also prove that there will come a little bit more dynamism into this relation.
Right. So how did you see, Indonesian diplomacy, especially the young people in a foreign country, let's say, in a special body, let's say United Nations or something like APEC?
I see that nowadays more and more young people get the chance to step on the stage and to make diplomacy. And I'm really, really happy that also our partners at KMLU or at the Directorate or also at our official levels, I see more and more young faces. And they are having the experiences already, but they are still there, and I think they are very good qualified people. And I think that the Indonesian diplomacy is very, very active, especially now during the Jokowi government. It's making great steps to enhance and to really have close relationships.
Right. So if I look back to the Indonesian history, that the young national at the time tried to get the independence, but now it's like different. So something like the challenge is more serious. So what do you think the most serious challenge for the young people, especially Indonesian young people?
Sometimes I think the challenges are not always on the borders, what we think we are, but sometimes they are in our head. That's why I always encourage young people that they should think further. They shall really try themselves and trust themselves that they can do it, because sometimes there really aren't really borders, but we think that there are. We think that we are too young to do this. We think that we are too unexperienced to try ourselves. But in fact, if you really do, if you really try, then you can achieve it, because at the end, and I think that's what the world is now developing into, if you are really good at something, then the world will acknowledge you.
Right. Okay. Some people say here in Indonesia that the young are something like the agent of change, the agent of reform, as something like happened in the last time. We try to force our government to step down. Let's say the tragedy we call Trisakti tragedy. It's something there is a force, and then the old one step down. So what do you think of that?
I think it's always good to have dynamism, but it's a cooperation. Youth empowerment does not mean that we have to forget the older generation and that we have to forget the experiences, what they already have. It means that it should be a mixture, that we shall left the stage also for the young people to interact, but it's not that we have to throw out all the experiences what the old generation already has. But it's a movement, it's a dynamism. It always brings, it's good to have this type of movements, this type of dynamism, because this is what is moving forward.
Right.
This is what brings movement into any type of relations.
So it's something like the color of life.
Definitely, definitely.
Okay.
That's the point.
Right. Okay, next.
Yes, I think now is the age of the young. However, we still, I think we shouldn't forget the past, and we learn a lot from the experience of our former generation. I would like to ask Mr. Rudolf Wirawan. Well, I'm sorry to say that among these young people, even though you look still young, and you are, I believe that you are still young at heart, and as you know, Bapak Rudolf Wirawan is Vice President of Global Indonesian Diaspora Network. Okay, so Pak, from your point of view, what do you think about diplomacy run by the young people?
I think more importantly is that we realize as we're young, we learn something new, and it's still flexible and dynamic. We still do not have a certain mind that impact on us. So young people, I think, is the luckiest generation to start to grow something to the right direction. Even though they can be steered to the different way, but if you stay and you learn from what happened in our life in the past, always learn from the past, don't forget our history, we will grow to the right direction. So because, for example, Indonesia is the lucky country where you can or we can learn directly from the nation. You go anywhere in Indonesia, you will find different so-called nation. You will find Sunda nation, you will find Papua nation, you will find Batak nation. I say nation because it is a real nation in the term of, let's say, in European, we find German, we find France, Italy, and so on. But in Indonesian, you are in one country, so you don't need visa. So this is very lucky, I guess.
I don't forget, this is the Youth Pledge Day. We are commemorating the Youth Pledge Day just a few days ago, and we already made that pledge long time ago in 1928. So it's long time ago that even though we come from so different ethnicities, we are of one nation.
Correct, yes.
So we always call ourselves as one nation, that is Indonesia.
That's correct.
Okay, but now as a diaspora person, I would like to ask you how that diaspora network can play its role to support our nation's diplomacy.
I think the idea of diaspora is that people that born from certain country going to overseas. So you see diaspora from China, diaspora from India, and of course diaspora from Indonesia. So this is all Indonesia, even though they already changed their nationality, but their heart is still the same. It's not different at all. Now, our diplomacy, our objective is how we can grow together between, for my case, Australia and Indonesia together. So we find a way of, we work closely because for me, I know Indonesia quite well. Now I know Australia quite well as well. So we choose the best for both countries.
Yes, but in terms of diplomacy?
in terms of diplomacy, is like exchange culture from Indonesia to Australia, as well as Australia to Indonesia.
Oh, I see. Now let's move to Zefa again. So Zefa,
Okay.
so we still talking about that youth diplomacy. So from your own experience, what kind of youth diplomacy have you ever engaged in, or how about your friends, maybe your communities or members of your organization are involved in youth diplomacy?
In my opinion, youth diplomacy can be implemented through a national sector, even the localities of where you live, and even abroad. And I have been active in lots of youth diplomacy programs since I was in my bachelor days when I was studying at Parahyangan Catholic University. And at the time, I joined in international student festivals in Germany, and also I have also represented a few times Indonesia in foreign conferences. But in regards to IYD, the year 2014, I went to Australia to participate in the Y20 Youth Summit. That is an engagement group of the G20. So there we discuss many crucial issues and G20 issues that really need to be put forward. For example, growth in jobs and sustainable development, and also labor mobility, and all of that is all related to youth issues. And it is a very good chance for us to also meet other youths from other countries as well, to see how they are coping with the youth issues in their country, and then share and try to find a solution. And usually these Y20 summits, they results in a communique or a declaration and some policy briefs that is presented to youth leaders, to G20 leaders for them to consider in their own communique. And that is the more formal activities, but there are also other ways to get involved and get engaged yourself with diplomatic activities. For example, there are many youth organizations currently in Indonesia that is growing in numbers. They have lots of activities to do, for example, Indonesian Future Leaders and also Young on Top. Even though the diplomacy doesn't have to be between a bilateral connection or even multilateral. It could be even with your fellow Indonesians to discuss various crucial issues, and hopefully you can network well, and who knows, in the future you can be a future leader, or it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be anything that you will do in your sector when you go into an occupation, do a job. So diplomacy is very wide, and it's not always, you don't have to always go abroad and do it with other youth or other leaders or from other nations. It starts from yourself, and then it can expand, and that's why I think it's really important.
I think you are right. It's very right here, because it starts from yourself. If you want to be a diplomat, I mean, you don't have to even to work at foreign affairs ministry, for instance, to become a diplomat. But you can also explain about your country, grow understanding with other people, from other country about your own country. So actually, that's it, and that's also what you have done.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, explaining about Indonesia to others. You don't have to be a member of the foreign ministry just to be a real diplomat.
No need at all.
However, I think at the front line, it must be the diplomat, must be the ambassador. Okay, I think I'm going to have a question for you, Madam Ambassador. So how about the role of young people? As you told us just now, it seems that nowadays in Hungary, young people really have their position. Even the minister, your minister, foreign minister, is also young. How old is he?
Yes, he's 37 by now. And our state secretary, or minister of state for economic diplomacy, he's 28.
Oh no!
He's even 4 years younger than me.
Okay, oh, that's great. Yeah? So young people nowadays in Hungary are holding position. So how about in diplomacy? Do all young people take part in diplomacy there? Try to outreach other country, people from other country, and etc.
I think it's a long way to get here. In Hungary already, at first you have to raise the awareness of the young people, that they know that they can participate. And as Ezra said, that it's not only, it's not only going to foreign countries, but it's there happening right in your own village, in your own town, interacting with people. In Hungary, for example, we have now the governing party, Fidesz, already had its youth organization in 1996. So already since 96, young people they put up, so to say, a youth party which was the type of party organized the same way, and they did these civil issues, participated, they raised the awareness to the other young people, to youth issues, and that's how they grow up. And now these leaders who were back then part of this youth party, or the youth organization actually of the party.
Political party?
No, it's the youth organization of the political party. But they function, so to say, as a real political party, just for the young people, that they can try themselves. And nowadays, a lot of from their leaders, this was already nearly 10 years ago, they are now our young leaders now. Also, our foreign minister was part of this, because there you already get to experiences. And I guess you cannot start early enough to be aware of the issues, what your country is facing, what your surroundings are facing about environmental issues, political issues, that you know that at an election it's important that you take part, because your vote is really what matters. And that's what you are saying to foreigners, it matters, and what you are doing matters. And this awareness is very, very important that this is raised.
Okay, I think. So I think we go back to Pak Rudolf again. The diaspora, I think there are many young people who are diaspora.
That's correct, yes. I think diaspora, again, is everyone that actually go overseas. And of course, there's a lot of young people, young generation in overseas. And our job, our duty is to tell them, don't forget where you're coming from, because if we forgot where we're coming from, forget all the history, then we can't stand on the floor. We are flying around, and we don't even know where we are. So we always tell, for example, today a lot of investment going to China. Why? Because China is growing quite well. And today, for us, if you invest in China, meaning you are a follower, you are not an investor. Why? Because 10 years ago, you should invest in China, not now. Now it's too late. Today, you should invest in Indonesia, because after 5 or 10 years, Indonesia will change. And if you, after 10 years, you try to invest in Indonesia, you will become another follower. So we try to tell to the Indonesian young people, please do not forget your own language. Very often, the parent talk in Indonesian to the children, but the children respond in English. Now, just imagine after 10 years, Indonesia grow quite well, and then you just happen to go back to Indonesia, try to, make a business, and then you will see the Australian people, the German people, even the Hungarian people, they speak all Indonesian language, and you speak English. So it's quite a shame. So don't forget that.
Okay, I think I do agree with you, because never forget that you are from Indonesia.
That's
and
correct,
whatever
yes.
happened, and then please come back to build this country, to help building this country, particularly the young people, because young people of today is the leader of tomorrow, isn't that right?
That's correct,
So
yes.
but remember that young people, you are the leader of tomorrow, I'm sure about that.
So once Indonesia, always Indonesia.
Indonesia, okay, you're right. Okay, Pak Ramana?
Yep. Okay, I would like to go to Ms. Sefa. As a young lady, as a young diplomat, so we have a lot of diaspora outside. So do you think something like the servants? I think, is there any appropriate time to stop them? Yeah.
Servants
Yeah,
as in?
yeah, I mean the servant. Yeah, we export.
Or maids?
Yeah, maids. A lot of people there, but I mean the outside people come to us with their colored ones. It's something like a difference. I see. What do you feel this point?
I think in terms of Indonesian workers, domestic workers overseas, we need to protect them. And there are many cases where Indonesian workers overseas, among them are also youths, are violated their human rights. They've been hurt by their boss. So we need a lot of protection from them, and we can work with the foreign ministry to protect these people, for domestic workers, and also before they go overseas and implement their occupation and their jobs, we need to also empower them with capacity building, and in that way, they will also be protected and be ready before they go overseas to work.
So as part of the legal protection is okay, no problem.
Pardon?
I mean, the legal protection is okay for them. You think
It's still, from what I know, there are still many issues where there's an imbalance. For example, in Saudi Arabia and in Singapore and in Malaysia, we still have many issues where our domestic workers are violated. There's still get many violence against them. And I think we need to cooperate more with both of the countries, the input and the outputs of these countries, to empower them before they leave. And yes.
Yeah. What about Mr. Rudolph? What do you think our mates outside there? Yes, because I see some countries like our neighboring country like Malaysia, Philippines, they try to stop them. So they try to send them professional ones.
Okay, I think that is a big problem at the moment. We also realize that even the diaspora 2012 has been actually started because of the MAID or TKI, what we call it here. And they are actually the first time, even we know Chinese diaspora bring China growth to the Chinese, to China, the Indian diaspora helping the Indian, and so on and so forth. So we know diaspora is very useful, but for what, why? So we don't know until the TKI doing that by sending 6.7 billion US dollar per year. And therefore we say the diaspora, the TKI is something bangsa, pahlawan devisa.
Yes.
Okay. And that is the first time we realized, Indonesia realized, or we start the diaspora Indonesia, because they say if TKI can spend or can actually bring 6.7 billion US dollar, how about all the other diaspora? So I think this is good. But again, we know that TKI is in Indonesia they get cheated in overseas, they suffer, and if they come back again they also get cheated again.
Right.
So we have to do, this is our job,
right,
to change it, to add some value of them. So the only way to do that is to add knowledge to them, to make sure that before we send them overseas they have certain knowledge and they can be useful and respected overseas.
Right. Yes, you're right. Well, I have to cut here. I'm sorry, but this is getting more and more interesting. However, we have a video call by Skype. So listeners, we have just listened to how diplomacy can become a successful key to support and strengthen cooperation among countries. In the next segment, we are going to know how young people can contribute in supporting states diplomacy and strengthening relations among global communities. And we are also going to have a short video chat with one of Indonesian students abroad to know how she conducts soft diplomacy, we call it soft diplomacy, to introduce Indonesia and to make foreign people understand about Indonesia. But we'll have we'll have that in the next segment of today's Diplomatic Forum. Stay tuned.
This Diplomatic Forum is brought to you by RRI World Service, Voice of Indonesia, and Pro 1 RRI Jakarta.
Welcome back to our Diplomatic Forum today, and we are still going to discuss about youth engagement with diplomacy and how it's going to work with the state's diplomacy as well as supporting it. But before we continue our discussion, we would like to invite Mutia Handaling through Skype video call. And we are going to know what did she do in terms of soft diplomacy there. Hello, Mutia.
Hi.
So, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Okay, everything is okay here. So, wow, I can see you. Can you see me? I can see you from from the screen. However, so Mutia, as I heard that you are actually the president of PPI, the Indonesian Students Association in Australia. Is that correct? Okay, so can you tell us how do you engage with foreign friends in terms of conducting soft diplomacy?
We have several ideas in conducting that. So basically, the very first thing that we do is that, because we represent Indonesia in here, so we try to be as friendly as possible, because that's mainly the idea of Indonesian in Australia. So other than that, as an organization, Indonesian student organization, we also have several events. So in that way, we can contribute to promote Indonesian culture. Also, we have personal relations because in Indonesian Student Association, we also have Australian Indonesia Student Association, and we have strong relation with them as well. Those are students who are interested in Indonesia, and we have several events with them, several programs in where we usually exchange culture between Indonesia and Australia. So basically, we are trying to maintain people-to-people relation, and we really hope that this can strengthen the relation between Indonesia and Australia.
Okay, by the way, Mutia, we have with us here Bapak Rudolf Wirawan, who is Vice President Global Indonesian Diaspora Network, who is also from Australia. Pak, are you going to say hello to Mutia?
Hello, Mutia. I hope you will remember me.
Okay, you know each other, do you?
Hello, sir.
Okay, so Rahmana, do you have question for Mutia?
Yeah, Mutia.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, so how long have you been living in Australia?
Around 6 years.
6 years, yes, quite enough. So
Yeah.
you know a lot. Yeah.
Quite
Well,
a
yeah.
long time, yeah.
My question is, you are ASEAN, so you are the future of Indonesia. So what should the young people do to make Indonesia better, not just nationally, but internationally?
Firstly, and on personal level, you can, say for example, from KJRI always told us that try to not get in trouble. That's for starter. Second is that build a relation with local students as well as other international students who study in Australia. Second is that try to shine whatever it is talent that you have, because you still will have represent Indonesia in Australia.
Right. So yeah, which part do you live in Australia? Is it Sydney or?
No, I live in Victoria, Melbourne.
Victoria, Melbourne. I thought in
Yeah.
Sydney. I was an alumni of Sydney Macquarie University.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Well, yeah. To make, we have some diaspora in Australia too, besides
Yep.
students. Yeah. So what do you think them?
Basically, we try, as Indonesian Student Association, we try to inform students, Indonesian students, to come back to Indonesia and build their nations. But as we go along, that it doesn't have to be in Indonesia. You can also build Indonesia from outside, which is diaspora. That's what diaspora is for. And being in PPIA, being in Indonesian Student Association outside Indonesia, it really is beneficial for me and also other students in other countries, because we learned that you can build and you can develop Indonesia outside, not just from within, but if you can try to build Indonesia from within, it's so much better.
Okay, thank you very much for your sharing us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mutia. By the way, one last question, Mutia. Do you still speak Bahasa Indonesia?
Of course, yeah. I have
Very good. And I think that's really great. So thank you to be with us, Mutia. Until next time, then.
you.
Bye-bye. Okay.
See ya.
So listeners, diplomacy has become an important part of cooperation and relations among countries. Nowadays, there are even young people showing their interest towards diplomacy. They want not only to know about diplomacy, but also to be able to conduct diplomacy itself. Some youth communities even widely announced their engagement with diplomacy, just like your communities or organization. Even using the word diplomacy, we are community name, just like the Indonesian Youth Diplomacy. And the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon even underlined that today the world has the largest generation of young people the world has ever have, and this potential should be prepared for the better world in the future. I think Hungary will agree this 100%.
Definitely, absolutely.
Okay, so the youth engagement with diplomacy is something we should support, because in the end, youth diplomacy will support government's diplomacy. What can we do to support young people to get involved in diplomacy? What do they need so that they can achieve what they want to know more about diplomacy and to have chances to conduct diplomacy on their own? So I think we are going to have the answer after this. No, let's go to the next question then. This time is for you, young diplomat. Shall I call you a young diplomat? No, yeah, youth diplomacy or something. So not you, Ambassador. You are definitely young diplomat. That's true. But this one is, I think, diplomat to be in the future.
Maybe,
okay.
yes.
So actually, yes, I really want to know about that young diplomacy organization activities that support people to get more engaged with diplomacy. I think you already told us a little about that, but we want to be more detailed maybe. So what do you need us to support so that Indonesian young people will get more closer to diplomacy thing?
We believe in Indonesian youth diplomacy that to implement youth programs would also need support. So as of now, we also cooperate with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, specifically the Public Diplomacy Division, and they give us insight and also support whenever we are sent abroad to attend youth summits, such as the Y20 Youth Summit. But also, I see that there's an importance to support youth programs through funding as well. I think one of the biggest challenges that youth organizations face is back again to financing. And for example, in Y20 summits that we attend, for us to send delegations abroad, we have to look for fundraising for sponsors. And so far, it's usually from the private sector because they're there for profit. They have more funds and their CSR and whatnot. But we also hope that in the future to come, the Indonesian government could support us more as well in that sense. Especially for the Y20 summits, we are official representatives of Indonesia. And we meet also other official representatives from other countries who also in part are funded by their government, and also some that they also have to do fundraising on their own. So I think financing is a very core aspect of support that the Indonesian society should give to youth programs. And also from the law aspect, Indonesian law, law number 40 of 2009, it also states about the importance to support youth initiatives. But looking also at the Sustainable Development Goals and the UN's discussions in the international level, we need to incorporate more and define more the ecology and the dynamics of what youth engagements is. And we need to incorporate that so that the government of Indonesia will know how to support and how to include youths in the development programs of Indonesia, because as we know, we can have many opportunities to involve youth in various initiatives. For example, back in May 2015, me and my friends, we made youth ecopreneurship camp. So this camp, we empower impoverished youths in various parts of Indonesia to learn more about how to do eco-business, things like that. These youth empowerment programs need to be supported, and that is a way for us to empower youth, for them to maybe earn a living or even to extend their knowledge to other youth around. So it's a proliferation of youth empowerment. And for IYD itself, in early October, we did an event called Meet the Diplomats. So in this event, we cooperated with the British and also the French embassy, and hopefully the Hungarian embassy in the future.
For sure.
Yes, so we hold an issue-based discussion. So for example, the COP21 is upcoming in Paris at the December later this year. So we discuss about environmental issues, and we invite various stakeholders from ambassadors and also diplomats and the private sector, NGOs, think tanks, to discuss together about environmental issues. So here, previously, Mrs. Judith also underlined the importance of intergenerational dialogue. And through such events, we can meet the seniors of Indonesia with the juniors and exchange knowledge, capacity building. I think this needs to be increased because sometimes there's a barrier between the younger generation and the older generation, and we need to facilitate this more and really exploit in a good way for the betterment of Indonesia's future. So these are just some examples of what we can do with youth diplomacy.
Okay, so
yes.
I think so. Your organization in principle is still a non-governmental organization, and you need support from many sides.
Yes.
How about so cooperation also, as you said, you want to make a cooperation with Hungary.
Yes.
And how about with this Bapak Rudolf organization?
Yeah, also diaspora too.
Because for diaspora, there's the young diaspora needs to be to get involved with other young people in the country.
Correct, yes.
So what do you think about about that, Pak?
I think we need to work together overseas as well as in Indonesia itself, because Indonesia, you are not alone. You are everywhere in the world. You are, today you will see, different level of diaspora people from, they also, even though they nationally may change or not, they are still prepared, to grow together between the host country as well as Indonesian country. So we all ready. So you are not alone.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay, Rahmana.
Yep. Well, I would like to go to the ambassador. So, yeah, in your country, I mean, the young people, what should they have done for the country in your country to make the image of the country become better and better?
Actually, I think this is the same issue all around the world. We also have a quite big diaspora, and I think it's very important for the young people who are studying abroad, who are living abroad, to help Hungary to have a better image, I guess. But this is not only for the young people, but I guess this is for every citizen, and that it's important that we don't forget our roots and our origins. I also think that we have to open the doors for the young people to really let them work and show them how they operate. For example, at our embassy, we have 2 very young Indonesian persons working for me, and from here, really big thanks to Pablo and Stephanie, because they are doing a great job there, and I wanted to hire them because they really do great work, and not only in being secretaries or assistant, but to really let them introduce them to the deeper things of diplomacy, that they see how it's working, how it's going, how you make support really to an ambassador, to the embassy, and when you give them the chance, they really show you that they can do it. And this is the way how you can start relationships. Just at least try the young people and really put some real burden on them, and they will solve it.
Right. Well, I would like to go to Sefa. So, the reality in our country, what do you see, let's say, in the parliament, in our executive also, so the ratio between the young people and the senior one, what do you think this?
Political participation, is it? Yes, I believe that young people in Indonesia should be pushed forwards to involve themselves in political participation, for example, through parties or DPR, And the thing is that I see from my friends who are both abroad and in Indonesia, they have so many ideas to improve the governance of in Indonesia, but sometimes they don't have the access to be involved in policy making, decision making processes. And if we involve them more, I think they will do such a good job. And also we need to encourage Indonesians not to just talk and comment, but actually get involved in policy making and decision making processes. And I actually have a friend, he is also involved in Gerindra, and he is also a member of IYD, and he's a really good example of Indonesian youth who go into the parties and try to influence decision making processes by our government.
Right. So if there is something like a case, I mean, we base on the presumption of innocence. Some young people make mistake, let's say, they are involved in a corruption cases. And I think some people don't see their sense of sameness. They feel something like they are proud to be corrupt. So what do you think this?
That comes back to the morality of the person. Yeah. And I feel that morality is something that is built since a very young age. And that's why I believe it's never too late. It's good if we have future children and we educate them since a young age what is the power of honesty and the badness of corruption. And even in youth, we also need to empower youth and make them understand that anything that is instant and illegal, it won't get you anywhere. It will come back to you. It's like kind of like karma. And we need to show those people that corruption is a very bad thing. We need to empower our legal system in Indonesia and don't just surrender to monetary gains, to money. And when we do that, we can hopefully eradicate corruption. And KPK, you know how KPK has a very dynamic process at the moment. People there have many enemies because, in Indonesia, it's like an octopus, like gurita, of all these people who protect each other. And we need to cut these really bad influences and put them, trial them as they should be.
Right.
To empower.
Okay, Mr. Rudolph. Yeah, the young people also, we can say they are the estafette. Yeah, they are the successor of our nation. But we see the reality sometimes also, I say we are very disappointed with them. Let's say Mr. Anas, Mr. Nasaruddin, this is cases. So we're doing diplomacy not just outside, but we have to prove in our country ourselves. So how do you think that?
I think the basic question here is actually, back again from respect of humanity, respect of each other. And if you think again, bring back again the corruption, I think it's not important to eradicate the corruption. Important is to eradicate the poorness. The poorness is create all this corruption. And don't forget, corruption is something like a leak in a big vessel. It can bring down the whole vessel. So NKRI can be down just because of corruption. So don't think about me. We have to think about what is about me and what is about all of us, not just about me.
But the expectation is we try to depend on young people because the old one make this. So something like we feel very sorry to see them.
Yeah, of course. See the situation here because this it make. I will say more chaos, and then it's easy to blame each other. We forgot the outside influence. So if we fighting and blame each other, we continue to grow this corruption more and more. But if we respect each other, start to thinking that yes, sometimes you cannot avoid that your father, your mother, or your grandparent make a mistake. But in yours, the next step is yours. The next step is make the country grow. So stop by me, not because we blame the other.
Right.
Okay, well, this is getting hotter than talking about corruption. But listeners and audience, ladies and gentlemen, I think it is now your chance to ask questions to our guest speakers regarding young people diplomacy, especially, or other thing that you want to ask. Anyone? Okay, we have that 1, 2, 3. Let's start from. Yeah, let's start from the gentleman with checkered shirt. Mention your name and everything.
Thank you. This is Tim Young from China. And I have three related questions about young people in diplomacy. First one goes to Mr. Wilawan. Is when we talk with young people with Australia, they just mentioned that young people are the future of Indonesia. So my question is, why not young people are the nowadays of Indonesia? And my second question goes to Duta, is how can young people be empowered in the diplomatic policy making? And my third question goes to Zeva, is when you mentioned support, involvement, participant, it's like kind of young people, you just being involved. How can young people itself be a power engine of politics? Yeah, thank you.
Let me try to understand your question. So you are trying to say that the diaspora, the young diaspora, is the future of Indonesia, not the Indonesian itself, or?
They mentioned that young people are you kind of use of sentence like young people are the future of Indonesia. So my question is, why not let's say young people are the president and the nowadays of Indonesia? How can we say this in Indonesia now?
Okay, so basically, I will say, whatever we think doesn't matter. It's not important. But if we have generation, old or young, if we think about all together for Indonesia, then Indonesia will grow. If you think the young generation is the way to go, it will give a certain flavor, certain dynamic to the mix. But don't forget, we need each other. We need to respect each other to grow. And don't forget as well, all mistakes that happened in the past is a good teacher for us to move to the next level. Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In my answer, I would like to link a little bit to the previous question, because I do think that the youth is very important nowadays, not only for the future, but also nowadays. And it's happening now. you can also get a job at the foreign ministry. You can apply to be a diplomat, but you can also work for foreign companies. You can be there, you can be in the front line. If you check out nowadays in the world, but also here in Indonesia, I see more and more young faces. And I don't tell you it's easy, because I feel it on myself that usually when I'm entering a room or is mentioned, no one expects me to be the ambassador. To tell you something very funny, when I'm going with one of my diplomats, usually the people are a little bit scared and they are greeting him first and they are not understanding and then they are, oh, you are the ambassador, so sorry. Because yes, this is what's happening. And when you are as a young person in a position like this, or even in your own position, usually still there are bad expectations, or there are expectations that, oh, she or he is too young to be here, too young to know that. But it's upon us to prove that we are not too young for this, that we have the experience, that we have the knowledge. And it's also on us to really work on that. It's not only that we expecting from the outside world that they should respect us and give us more floor. Of course, this shall be also done, but it's also upon us, upon the young people, to show the world that we are capable of doing this. And that's why I believe organizations like the Youth Diplomatic of Indonesia is very, very important, because they are the ones who are showing that they are there, they are doing responsible politics, they are there representing Indonesia, and I'm sure that from those people they will become real diplomats, showing the world at a young age that you are capable of doing that.
Okay, thank you for your question. You asked me how can young people be a power engine of politics. So basically, I believe that you can always start from something small. For example, the key word that I can highlight today is organization. So when I was in university, I also involved myself in student bodies, and I think student bodies, or himpunan in Indonesian terms, is a very good chance for you to get involved with many activities and also voice your opinions, and you can also join discussion groups. Little initiatives like this, it can empower politics indirectly. And also you can join youth organizations. If you're from China, maybe I'm sure that China has a lot of youth organizations and youth movements. Take part in the issues that you care most. So they usually have various issues that they want to, voice out. So choose what you want. And also, if you have an opportunity to join a political party, they usually are open for young employees who would like to participate in the visions and the causes that they care about. And also for your job, for example, if you want to do change in human rights sector, environmental, finance, you can apply yourself to a company or an organization where you can voice out your opinion and try to influence the political processes. Like as for me now, I work for the United Nations, and one of their offices, which is UN ORCID, we deal with environmental issues, and that is a way for me to advocate for climate change issues, forestry issues. As we know, in Indonesia, we have very, very significant, terrible disaster in Riau and in Palangkaraya with the haze. So I do my best in my own capacity how to influence stakeholders to, mitigate that problem and hopefully finish that problem. There are many ways, and I believe that, as Mrs. Judah said, we need to show the world, show other people, show the seniors that we are capable, we are very worth to be invested in, and there will always be many ways as long as you find a way to make it possible. Yeah, thank you. Did that answer your question?
Thank you. So I think there may be some power transferring. So how to make this whole process, power transferring, very smooth and efficient from the senior to the younger?
I think it's also really good to make our seniors, our fellow lovable seniors, to realize investing in youth is a very prospective thing. And this could be done hopefully in international seminars or whatnot. And even in the United Nations, we always advocate for youth empowerment. And in that way, we can also voice out this importance towards leaders and also other decision makers, and how it is very, very, what do you call it? It's like, sorry, that's this word that I forgot. But very empowering, anyway, to invest in youth. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I think next, we still have time for next question. Yes, the lady at the table 3.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Laras Anissa Wahyuni Tias. I'm from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia Bandung. I wanna ask you something about nationality. Because this is Indonesia, we have many tribes here. There is Sundanese, Java, Betawi, something like that. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Judith said that we should trust to themselves and they can do that, something like that. So we should trust to ourselves, trust to everyone, trust to our country. And then the problem is here. If someone do something wrong, for example in Indonesia, he or she is coming late, and everyone said that that's Indonesia, and everyone and for other case, he or she get the corruption. That's Indonesia. Something like that. And Indonesia is the bad things in our thinking. And if someone, especially we as a youth people or young people, we have a nationality, do you think that will happen or not? The bad thing.
Okay,
yeah?
Can you hold it a moment, because you have to get connected with MISIS, the Metropolitan International Community Service at Pro 1 RRI Jakarta. And we are going to continue our program. Of course, it's just the radio thing. Okay, continue. So the question is for?
Yes, I guess it was for me. So what you were telling is actually, I believe, every country and every nation has to face these types of challenges, that there are always stereotypias. If you look about the Germans, a lot of people say that they are too strict and they are really like little cubes putting everything in a line. If you're for Hungary, we have to struggle that a lot of people still thinking that we are a little Eastern European country which is still not on the best level of technology. We are a country of 10 million people, so a lot of people just think that, we are too small to develop a great technology. Our name is still not well known. If I want to make business, it's very hard to compete with other, for example, German, French, British, Also here, the organization, they have contact with the French and British embassy. And so this is, sometimes you have to struggle with these things. And yes, it's true. And it's not easy, especially, also that applies also for the young people. There are expectations, what you have to face, and I'm being, for example, a lady is again another thing. Because usually when you are a female, people expect you to be weak, that you cannot negotiate really very hard. These are the things which we really have to face. Being Indonesian, yes, you have some hardships, but you also have your good things, because Indonesia is now really much coming into more and more into the focus of the world. That's why here embassies are expanding. That's why my embassy is actually doubling. Saya masih belajar bahasa. So you see the importance of Indonesia is rising, and with it also the importance of the youth here is rising, because to get your country developing more and more, you need the dynamism of the youth. And of course, sometimes it's a challenge, because sometimes people judge you just by one of your mistakes. But this happens everywhere and in every situation of your life. But you just don't have to give up and fight more and be there and be present and be aware and not let you taken aback by small things like this.
Can I add a little bit?
Yes, of course.
I think the idea of, this is bad, that is bad, is in our mind. There's a symbol about yin and yang. I don't know if anyone know about that.
Yes. Yeah, we know that.
So you see bad and good can be represented by two colors, for example, black and white. But in black you see white, and in white you see black. So that means, anything you can see in both sides. It's up to you where you want to drive. So for example, bacteria, very, very bad. So, but because we saw, if we saw bacteria, my immunity will be very low. So bacteria is somehow good. love of mother is very good, but if they care the children until 40 years old, then it will be very, very bad. So it's again up to our mind. So if we always look from the positive side, suddenly the road open for us to grow and grow. If we see from the negative side, then suddenly everything is very bad, and we just stop moving. So just think about that. Thank you.
And just I want to add a bit. So if somebody says that Indonesia is ngaret or always late, show them that we are not like that. And if they think that Indonesians are like, they always litter everywhere, then give an example, always put rubbish in the bin, something like that. So just whatever gossip or whatever comment comes to us as a nation, we prove them the otherwise. And that will be much more directly accepted by them, and they will probably stop stereotyping. So yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
And
do you still have time for more question? No? Okay, I think there is one more question.
Yep, last one.
Yes, last one.
At the corner, yep.
Yeah. Give the microphone.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Rizky from Concord Review. My first question is for Ziva. In recent months, radical thinking has spread very hugely in Indonesia, especially about ISIS movement. Yeah. Especially about ISIS movement, ISIS influence, ISIS thinking among Indonesian people. So, what young people can do in facing this radical thinking among Indonesian people? Yes. And for Mrs. Judith and Pak Rudolf, do you have any recommendations for young people in facing this radical thinking? And do you agree that the new defense minister programs, the state defense program, can actually have more powerful, bring character for young Indonesians, bring new character for Indonesian young Indonesians? That's my question.
Yep. Seva first.
This is a very interesting question, and it relates to my background as well. So in the past, I used to be involved in two programs. The first is I used to work for Search for Common Ground, and this is an NGO. We work in conflict transformation, peace building, and one of the projects that I handled was youth de-radicalization. So at that time, the program that I did was we went around to various senior high schools in Java Island, Cirebon, Jogja, Yogyakarta, Bandung, and Jakarta. What we did was we did a debating competition, parliamentary debating. And why did we do this? Is because through debating you can have critical thinking and discuss various issues which really proliferates and also develop the critical thinking abilities of the youth. And one of the things that we usually overlook with radicalization is a lack of questions, wanting to ask for more, curiosity. And through debating, it's a very fun way to engage in increasing critical thinking among youth. And that is just one way that we could do to make people, to make youth specifically to negate radicalization, which is very prominent in various parts of Indonesia, unfortunately. And also another way is also to hold various interfaith dialogue programs. I think one of the most problematic facts in Indonesia is there's many cases where people are not very tolerative of people who have a different belief system than them. And in a way, this could also foster form of radicalization. And if we spread the words of peace, the words of love, I think it is a really great way for us to curb radicalization. Like, I am also an alumni of SUSI. It's a U.S. government-sponsored program, and I learned a lot about religious pluralism. And some of my friends also made a community called Cinta Interfaith. So what they do is they make a roadshow in various cities in Indonesia to empower youth and show them that violence is never a good thing to solve a problem. And through these ways, even though that it might not make like a direct change for like infiltration of ISIS in Indonesia, but at the least we can empower youth and show them that these really radical thinkings are not the solution to any problem. And that is just one of the ways that youth can do. But of course, other than that, the government also needs to curb that, and also the law enforcement, the police. But yeah, I think the programs is a really good key to empower youth to face ISIS issues. Thank you.
I guess when it comes to radicalism, it's always related to lack of education. Because it's the thing, when you raise question, when people really get to think about what they are saying, what they are doing, then they realize that this is not the way it shall be done. So usually what you have to raise is the raise of education, of the knowledge of the people, to make these types of forum, to really ask them back, do you understand what you are saying, really from deep of your heart? Do you know what you are doing, what the consequences of this are? Because that's where we see that radicalism is spreading in those places and in those locations where there is lack of education, where there are the very poor people who don't get the possibility that they just think about these things because they have to think about their everyday life. So if we help them to raise their awareness, to make these questions happen, and with these forums, we can help this issue. And when it comes, to ISIS and to this way of radicalism, which is now frightening the world, actually, here Indonesia has a very positive and a very big role. And I guess this is something where the Indonesian nation should be very, very proud of. That Indonesia is one of the biggest populated Muslim countries, and you still don't have this type of radicalization. Indonesia can show that it's a country which is actually a melting pot where all the nations and all the religions can live together very, very peacefully. And I guess Indonesia is very well taking this leading role, showing the world that from the Western point sometimes we have the feeling that, oh, Islam, that's very bad, that's all these terrorists. Indonesia has a big role in proving and showing the world that it's not only black and white, and not the religion is bad itself, but radicalism is bad, and radicalism is always bad, and it's not linked to any religion. And in this point, you have to be very proud of your country and show it all around the world that here it's working. And this is a melting pot where people can live peacefully together.
Can I answer? This I think it's a very good question. I think radicalism is very good in that sense that, if you want to bring down the country, that's the way to go. Because radicalism is the way, you can create a chaos in the country, create a situation where you're fighting each other to benefit other outsider. Don't forget, everyone is looking into Indonesia and like to get a portion of Indonesia. So if you don't take care of the country, so you will find that one day the country is break down, merdeka this, merdeka that, and suddenly that big country becomes small merdeka. So take care of the country. Radicalism is always good to break it down. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, I think we still have time for one more question. So, yes.
Thank you so much for this discussion. My name is Alfred James. I want to ask to the Miss of Ambassador of Hungary about the cooperation between Indonesia and also Hungary that have to support the youth of between Hungary and also Indonesia. And I want to ask to Miss Seva and Mr. Diaspora about in this moment, we as a youth of Indonesia has also to confront about the two idealism that had to increasingly arise in our life, about the nationalism and also internationalism. How about that? How we can manage the both of them to supporting our role as a youth, not only for as a youth of Indonesia, but also youth of around the world. Thank you so much.
I guess I would like to answer to your question concerning cooperation between Hungary and Indonesia, especially focused on youth issues. I would like to give you a very practical example. For example, educational exchange programs are very important. Now at my embassy, 2 of my diplomats, they were living here in Indonesia with the Dharma Siswa exchange programs. They stayed here for a long, long time because they really get to like Indonesia very much. And now I have two diplomats who are perfectly speaking Bahasa, knowing the country, loving the country, and having very good ties. This is the way, for example, how it can work, how you can be included into diplomacy. But also, if you check out the staff of my embassy, they are quite young people, and we are looking into possibilities for cooperation, especially in the educational field, because this is where everything starts. With education, that you have exchange programs, exchanging of views, and making, knowing the people more and more about each other. That's one point. But also we are organizing business forums, and we are working together in cooperation with cities like Bandung, where they are very much into supporting startups and new businesses, which are just led by young people, one person, one idea, and you try to go it. Hungary is already quite successful in incubator programs, which are incubating these type of young entrepreneurs who has their idea and who grow up. Hungary is very successful in that, and now we want to bring these programs here to Indonesia, to Jakarta, but especially also to Bandung, where there are a lot of IT startups. So that's just some of the examples where there might be cooperation, and I hope in the future there will be more and more. Thank you.
After you.
I think more important for every one of us is be open-minded. And see, from the big perspective, because you can start differentiate between the good and the bad. We don't need the extreme good or extreme bad. We need balance. We need both of those. If we are open-minded and we always play in balance like yin and yang, suddenly the world become more sustainable. Because everything that we think the best, the good way to do, we suddenly going to radicalism because we think only in one way. But if we actually can accept, even the bad side and keep it all in balance, suddenly we can see everything's run from itself.
Just to answer your question, so I believe that we now live not only in a borderless world, but also in a borderless nation. So what I mean by this is, when you want to be involved in youth public diplomacy, don't only care about your region and also your involvement overseas, but look at our fellow Indonesians in Sumatra, in Kalimantan, in Sulawesi. Try to interact with them, and this is possible if you join youth initiatives, youth programs, or even make one. Initiate a project, write a proposal, and search for funding to propose to implement your projects to make these things happen. And also, you can also, of course, study abroad with a youth exchange. Maybe anybody here wants to study in Hungary? That could be a really good idea also to get involved in youth diplomacy in that sense, a bilateral youth diplomacy, and show your soft diplomacy skills, introducing what Indonesia is, the potential that Indonesia has. Hopefully in the future we have many investors coming into our country, even from Hungary, for example, to start more businesses and give more jobs, for example, because Indonesia, we're also facing a lot of youth unemployment issues. So there are many ways for us to get involved. And yes, I hope that answers your question.
Right, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, here we come to the end of our discussion diplomatic forum. I would like to give a conclusion that yes, we try to do the smallest thing for us, young people. So we think something like positive. If you think something black, think always white. If you something think about the white, also not just think about nationalism, but also we have to go internationalism. This is the two things we cannot separate. So at least for the young people, yeah, they should respect to the senior. Thank you very much for your participation, and I would like to also to say thanks a lot for Her Excellency Judith and Mr. Rudolf and Sepa. Thank you for your participation.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've just listened to Diplomatic Forum, jointly broadcast by RRI World Service, Voice of Indonesia, and Pro 1 RRI Jakarta.
All right. right, thank you so much, Rahmana and Anna Trijaya, for hosting such an interesting dialogue. And we are hoping that in the future, Indonesia will have more young diplomats, and every young people in Indonesia will be able to conduct diplomacy in a good way for Indonesia, of course. And gentlemen, we have come to the end of Diplomatic Forum. But before we completely end the event, I would like to invite Head of RRI World Service, Voice of Indonesia, Bapak Edi Sukmana, to deliver souvenirs for our speakers, which is the first one, the Ambassador of Hungary to Indonesia, Her Excellency Judith Nemeth-Bach. Okay. And the second one, we invite Bapak Haryanto Adi, representing Program and Production Directorate of Radio Republik Indonesia, to give souvenirs to our speaker, Rudolf Wirawan, as the Vice President Global Indonesian Diaspora Network. Okay. And the last one, we invite Bapak Budi Nugroho as the Head of Broadcasting Division of Voice of Indonesia to give the souvenir to Zefa Aulia Sudana, Outreach and Media Relations Manager from Indonesian Youth Diplomacy. Okay. Okay. And we are going also to have a photo session, so we kindly invite to the speakers to stay on stage. Okay, once again, give applause to our today's speakers, Ambassador of Hungary to Indonesia, Her Excellency Judith Nemeth-Bach, Rudolf Wirawan, Vice President, Global Indonesian Diaspora Network, and Zefa Aulia Sudana, Outreach and Media Relations Manager, Indonesian Youth Diplomacy. So that ends our diplomatic forum for today, Role of the Youth in Diplomacy. Thank you very much for coming and participating. See you in the next diplomatic forum.